We're now joined by Cosatu Parliamentary Coordinator Matthew Parks, and he joins us now via our video link. Matthew, thank you so much for your time this evening, Mr. Parks. And, just looking at this new step that is now being taken by the Communications Workers Union, your affiliate, and this new round of fresh talks with government, what are your expectations, especially now when you find yourselves in a very difficult situation?
Look, our number one task is to save workers' jobs. We can't afford an economy with a 41% unemployment rate to send a single worker into the unemployment queue. We think the post office can and must be saved. We think those workers who receive the retrenchment notices deserve better. We must save their jobs. And I think what makes us have some hope is that the post office was a very efficient entity until not so long ago. There is still a space for it to play a contributory role to society, the space for it to grow, to be stabilized. And I think workers deserve better. It also gives us a bit of hope is that we have consensus on the need to save these jobs of these workers, to save the post office, between ourselves, between government, between the post office and the Unemployment Insurance Fund. And I think we all agree broadly on a particular vehicle. I think the issue is addressing the gaps in the proposals, making sure the holes are plugged, etc. I think for us it can be dealt with, or it must be dealt with. The issue is that we have an urgency of time, so we don't have a huge amount of time to play with. So we really need to resolve this issue in the next few days. But we must save these workers' jobs at all costs.
And coming to workers and, the need to save these jobs, I mean, some of these workers seem to be not interested in more. I think they are tired of the back and forth. They're even questioning the presence of, their unions. And what do you have to say to that when they are just saying that they just want their payouts now and so that they can move on with their lives?
Look, I mean, it's natural for any worker to be angry, to be upset, to be hurt, to be demoralized. What else could they be? They've been through a horrific situation for the past couple of years, not receiving the salaries for months at a time. They've seen the third-party benefits like medical and pension aid not being handed over to those funds. So it's natural for those workers to be very, very angry. One couldn't expect any different from them. Look, our mandate is to save jobs. That's what we must do. That's the fundamental issue, and that's what must be resolved. But if any worker does decide they are done with the situation, they want to move on with life, it's been too much stress, and that's completely understandable and natural, they have that right. Since last year when the post office first proposed to retrench 6,000 workers, already about 3,000 of them have taken voluntary severance packages and moved on in life. And you can't blame them. These are mothers and fathers, they are breadwinners, they're human beings, they've got feelings. They have legal and labor rights. Of course, it'll be natural for them to want to move on to life. But I think for those workers who want to remain at the post office, and for those workers who are hanging on for dear life, we must give them that support. That's why we've intervened as Cosatu, not just recently, but even last year. But we could also see that things are not moving at the pace we had hoped to in the bargaining unit in the post office. So this is why we intervened last month as Cosatu with the two ministers of communications and employment and labor, with the two departments of communication and labor and also the Unemployment Insurance Fund. We have to find a solution. We can't just simply fold our arms and say, well, tough luck. It's a large amount of workers, about 4,700 roughly, whose jobs are still at risk, and they really deserve intervention. They deserve our support, and we must do it. That's ultimately what we must do as Cosatu.
And Mr. Parks, what is the possibility and the likelihood of these jobs being saved? I mean, if you are hearing from Post Office itself saying that it needs to slash the salary wage bill of the workers from Post Office, how likely can these jobs be saved?
Look, it's tough, it's difficult, and that's why we're in this crisis, but it can be done. The headcount has already decreased significantly since last year. The post office last year was talking about reducing the post office from 14,000 to about 8,000. It's decreased from 14 to 11,000. But we're not keen to see workers going to the unemployment queue. I think for us, what can be done to save the post office? And I think there's a couple of different interventions all being put into play. Treasury has budgeted about 3.4 billion rand to assist the post office reducing its debts. That's helpful. There is an option of getting relief from the Unemployment Insurance Fund, the Temporary Employment Relief Scheme, which can help pay for salaries for 12 months on condition there's a convincing turnaround plan and the workers won't lose their jobs. So that's another intervention. The President recently signed the Post Bank Amendment Act, which enables the Post Bank, which is a symbiotic partner to the Post Office, to become a fully fledged licensed commercial bank. So that's another quick intervention, well, not quick, but an important intervention rather. Parliament also passed about 2 weeks ago the Post Office Amendment Bill, which is going to enable the Post Office to expand the scope of goods it offers to society. So it's going to enter the courier service business, which is a very lucrative business. You can't simply rely upon the existing model of sending letters, etc. But also the Post Office is also now going to be mandated to become a one-stop government service point, so that you could go to a post office in Zanin or in Mahikeng and apply for your SASA social grant, apply for your ID, apply for SME funding, or even apply for UF or compensation for injury or duty relief. So that can really be a huge injection to the post office and the post bank, attract new customers. The post bank has got a significant customer base, over 1 million clients. But also what we think also needs to be done as well is that the post office can become government's courier service provider, and also its footprint on the ground. The post bank should also be positioned to become a banking service provider of choice for government, from departments to entities to SOEs to municipalities. If government can utilize these two same institutions for its courier services, for its government access services, for its banking services, that's going to inject significant liquidity into these institutions, which will enable them to compete successfully with the private sector. But I think what we do need to do is to give a bit of breathing space to the post office for these 12 months, to enable them to stabilize, to put in place a business turnaround plan, and to make sure it's implemented. But we think they can be saved. I don't think anybody in society is saying we don't need postal services. What is needed now is to stabilize and to reposition these entities and allow them to compete. We think we can do it. And again, as Cosatu, our number one task is to protect workers' jobs, to save workers from unemployment, and to see how can we help these companies to become once again thriving companies.
Why is it so important to you as Cosatu to try by all means to ensure that these jobs are saved?
Look, that's why Cosatu exists, is to save workers' jobs. We've done it time and again, and we must continue to do it. We did it at EdCon not so long ago. We managed to save many, many jobs in the clothing industry. We do it in the industrial master plans, from the motor manufacturing sector to sugar and poultry industries, to save jobs. That's what we exist for. Cosatu is about saving workers' jobs, about improving workers' wages and improving the conditions of their lives. When things are difficult, we can't afford to walk away. We need to look for practical solutions, and that's why we work closely with government, with industry, to see how can we remove these obstacles. And look, I think all of us recognize these institutions can be saved. There is business models for them. If we look at the courier services in the private sector, they are thriving. They're making a killing. So why can't the post office enter that space? Get competent management, sort out its internal difficulties, put it on the right footing, it can thrive. And we've seen recently, for example, South African Airways. It was in free fall. Today is reopening its routes. South African Revenue Service was in crisis under the previous president. Today is thriving once again. So if you put in place competent management, things can be improved and turned around.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Parks, for your time this evening here in SABC News. That is Matthew Parks, Parliamentary Coordinator for Cosatu, talking about ways and means that Cosatu is indeed trying to save the jobs at the post office. Of course, fresh and new talks now underway with government.